My own mother actually threw me out of our house at 15 years old because her new boyfriend Rick told her, "It's either me or that brat. You can't have both." And she chose him over her own daughter without even hesitating for 1 second. If you're just tuning in, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update on this story. My name is Luna Smith and I'm 31 years old now. But this story takes me back to when I was 15 and my whole world came crashing down in one devastating conversation. I remember that Tuesday evening like it was yesterday. I was in my bedroom doing algebra homework when I heard raised voices downstairs. Mom and Rick were arguing again, but this time felt different. The tension had been building for months since Rick moved in 6 months earlier. "I'm tired of walking on eggshells around that kid, Patricia." Rick's voice boomed through our thin walls. "She gives me attitude every damn day, rolls her eyes when I talk, acts like I don't belong here." I crept to the top of the stairs, my heart pounding. Rick had been complaining about me constantly, but Mom always defended me. He had to, right? I was her daughter. "She's just adjusting, Rick. Luna's been through a lot with her father leaving." Mom's voice sounded tired, defeated even. "I don't care about her daddy issues, Patricia. I care about us. About our future together." Rick's tone grew cold and calculating. "You need to make a choice right now. It's either me or that brat. You can't have both." The silence that followed felt like an eternity. I held my breath, waiting for Mom to tell Rick he was being ridiculous, that I was her child and nothing would change that. Instead, I heard something that would haunt me forever. "You're right, baby. I've been putting her needs before ours for too long." My 15-year-old heart shattered into a million pieces right there on those wooden stairs. The next morning, I woke up hoping the previous night had been a nightmare. But when I walked into the kitchen, Mom and Rick were sitting at the table with serious expressions. Mom wouldn't even look at me directly. "Luna, sit down. We need to talk," Mom said, her voice unnaturally formal. I poured myself cereal, trying to act normal despite the knot in my stomach. "What's up?" Rick leaned back in his chair like he owned the place. "Your mother and I have been discussing your behavior and attitude problem." "My attitude problem?" I looked between them, confused. "What are you talking about?" Mom finally looked at me, but her eyes were cold. "You've been disrespectful to Rick ever since he moved in. He's trying to be a father figure to you and all you do is give him grief." "He's not my father." The words burst out before I could stop them. Rick smiled smugly. "See, Patricia? Right there. That's exactly what I'm talking about." I felt tears burning behind my eyes. "Mom, he's been here 6 months. He doesn't get to come in and start bossing me around like he owns us." "Actually, he does," Mom said quietly. "Because I love him and he loves me. Something you clearly can't accept." The way she said it, like my feelings didn't matter at all, like 13 years of being her daughter meant nothing compared to 6 months with Rick. I saw my mother choosing a man over her own child in real time. "So what are you saying?" I whispered. Rick answered for her. "We're saying you need to shape up or ship out, little girl." I thought they were just trying to scare me. Parents don't actually kick out their kids, right? Wrong. That afternoon, I came home from school to find Mom in my room, stuffing my clothes into black garbage bags. Not suitcases. Not boxes. Trash bags, like my belongings were literally garbage. "Mom, what are you doing?" I stood frozen in my doorway, watching her pack away my entire life. She didn't stop moving, didn't even slow down. "Rick and I talked more last night. We've decided this isn't working out." "What isn't working out?" "Me living in my own home. This is Rick's home now too, and you've made it clear you can't respect that." She grabbed my favorite stuffed animal from childhood and shoved it into a bag. "You're old enough to figure things out on your own." I felt like I was watching a stranger wear my mother's face. Where am I supposed to go? I'm 15 years old. "You can stay with your friend Jasmine's family for a while." I already called her mother. The casual way she said it, like she was discussing weekend plans instead of abandoning her child, made my blood run cold. "You already called? How long have you been planning this?" Rick appeared in my doorway, arms crossed, looking satisfied. "We've been planning it since you made it clear you couldn't adjust your attitude." "I never said I couldn't adjust. You never even gave me a real chance." Mom finally stopped packing and turned to face me. "Luna, I've been a single mother for 3 years. 3 years of struggling, working double shifts, worrying about money constantly. Rick makes me happy. He takes care of me. Something has to give. And that something is me?" By 6 p.m., my entire life fit into 4 garbage bags sitting on our front porch. I sat on the steps next to them, still in shock, waiting for Jasmine's mom to pick me up. Neighbors walked by, some staring, some pretending not to see the obvious drama unfolding. Mrs. Bennett from next door came over with concern written all over her face. "Baby, what's going on here? Why are your things outside?" Before I could answer, Rick opened the front door. "Everything's fine, Mrs. Bennett. Just some family business." "Family business?" Mrs. Bennett looked at me sitting with garbage bags. "This child is sitting on the street with her belongings." Mom appeared behind Rick. "Luna is going to stay with friends for a while. We think it's best for everyone." The look Mrs. Bennett gave my mother could have melted steel. "Patricia Smith, that is your baby girl. What in God's name has gotten into you?" "With all due respect, this is none of your concern," Rick interjected, putting his arm possessively around Mom's waist. Mrs. Bennett looked at me with such sadness. "Baby, you know where I live if you need anything. Anything at all." When Jasmine's mom pulled up 20 minutes later, she helped load my bags without asking questions, but I could see the judgment in her eyes. As we drove away, I looked back to see Rick and Mom standing in the doorway. Rick was smiling. Mom looked relieved. That image burned itself into my memory forever. Jasmine's family was kind, but I knew I couldn't stay long. They had 4 kids in a 3-bedroom house, and I was sleeping on the living room couch. After 2 weeks, I could see the strain. "Luna, honey," Mrs. Johnson said gently one evening. "I called your mama again today." My heart jumped. What did she say? Is she ready for me to come home? The look on Mrs. Johnson's face told me everything. "Baby," she said, "you need to learn independence and that staying here too long would be enabling you." Enabling me? I was 15 and homeless because my mother chose a man over her daughter, and she thought people helping me was enabling? She said if you got a job and started contributing, you'd appreciate family more, Mrs. Johnson continued, clearly uncomfortable delivering this message. I felt something die inside me that day. The tiny hope I'd been carrying that Mom would come to her senses, that she'd realize she made a mistake, just evaporated. "I'll find a job," I said quietly. The next day, I walked to every business within walking distance of school. Most places wouldn't hire a 15-year-old, but the McDonald's near the bus station was desperate for help. The manager, Mr. Rodriguez, took pity on me. "You can work after school and weekends, but your grades better not slip. Education first, understood?" I nodded eagerly. "Yes, sir. Thank you so much." My first paycheck was $127 for 2 weeks. I gave Mrs. Johnson $40 for letting me stay, spent $20 on work clothes from Goodwill, and saved the rest. Every dollar mattered now. 3 months later, I had to move again. Jasmine's family was struggling financially, and I was taking up space they needed. I bounced from couch to couch, staying with different friends' families, sometimes sleeping in the school library when I had nowhere else to go. The guidance counselor, Ms. Peterson, called me into her office one day. "Luna, I'm concerned about your living situation. Have you considered contacting social services?" I panicked. "No, ma'am, please don't call them. I'm handling everything fine." "You're 16 now, working 25 hours a week and maintaining a 4.0 GPA while essentially homeless. That's not fine." But I was terrified that social services would mess up the delicate balance I'd created. "Miss Peterson, I only have 2 more years. I can make it 2 more years." She studied me carefully. "What are your plans after graduation?" "College. I'm going to get scholarships and go to college." "Good. But Luna, you shouldn't have to do this alone. Your mother." "My mother made her choice," I interrupted, surprising myself with the bitterness in my voice. "She chose Rick. She chose her happiness over her daughter. I'm not waiting around for her to change her mind." Miss Peterson was quiet for a moment. "I'm going to help you research scholarship opportunities. And if you ever need anything at all, you come to me first. Understood?" For the first time in months, I felt like someone actually cared about my future. The hardest part wasn't the ramen noodles for dinner or the secondhand clothes or even sleeping on couches. The hardest part was watching Mom's Facebook posts. Every week there were new photos. Mom and Rick at restaurants I couldn't afford. Rick surprising her with jewelry while I was rationing soap to make it last longer. Pictures of weekend trips while I was working double shifts at McDonald's. The captions were the worst part. "So blessed to have found my soulmate. And finally know what real love feels like." And Rick treats me like a queen. Each post felt like a knife twisting in my chest. She was living her best life while her daughter was essentially homeless, and she made sure everyone could see how happy she was. One post really got to me. It was a picture of them at some fancy steakhouse with the caption, "Rick says I deserve to be spoiled after all the years I spent struggling as a single mom. Finally putting myself first." I stared at that post for an hour, tears streaming down my face. All those years she was struggling as a single mom, I was there. I helped with groceries using my babysitting money. I cleaned the house without being asked. I got good grades so she'd have one less thing to worry about. But now she was acting like those years were some terrible burden she'd finally escaped from. Like I had been holding her back from happiness instead of being her daughter who loved her unconditionally. That night, I deleted Facebook from my phone. I couldn't watch anymore. Senior year, everything was falling apart. I was staying with my friend Marcus's family, but his dad lost his job and they were struggling. I could see the stress on everyone's faces and I knew I was part of the problem. I was working 30 hours a week at McDonald's, but it still wasn't enough. I needed money for SAT prep, college application fees, and basic necessities. My grades were slipping from exhaustion and I felt like I was drowning. One particularly bad day, I walked past Mom's house on my way to work. I hadn't been down that street in over a year, but I took a wrong turn and there it was. Rick's truck in the driveway. Mom's car looking newer than I remembered. I stood across the street just staring at the house I used to call home. The yard looked nice. New flowers in the garden I used to help Mom plant. Fresh paint on the front door. They were doing well. Thriving even without me. I was about to leave when the front door opened. Mom came out to get the mail and for one heart-stopping moment our eyes met across the street. I expected her to wave, to run over, to show some sign that she missed me. Instead, she quickly looked away and hurried back inside. Standing there in my McDonald's uniform, holding a backpack with holes in it, watching my own mother pretend she didn't see me, that was my breaking point. I made a promise to myself that day. I was going to succeed so spectacularly that she'd regret every single choice she made. Not for revenge, but to prove that I was worth more than she thought. Despite everything, my hard work paid off. I graduated as valedictorian with a 4.0 GPA and perfect SAT scores. The guidance counselor, Ms. Peterson, had helped me apply for every scholarship available. The day the MIT acceptance letter arrived with a full scholarship, I cried in the school parking lot for 20 minutes. Not just from relief, but from the overwhelming realization that I'd actually made it out. Marcus's mom found me there and pulled me into the biggest hug. "Baby girl, you did it. You actually did it. I can't believe it's real," I sobbed into her shoulder. "It's real because you made it real. You worked harder than any kid should have to, and you earned every bit of this success." That evening, I sat in my room. Marcus had given me his room and moved to the couch months earlier. His whole family had become like surrogate parents to me, staring at the acceptance letter. For just a moment, I considered calling Mom. I imagined her proud voice, maybe even an apology for how things went down. Maybe she'd realize that kicking me out was the worst mistake of her life. But then I remembered her looking away when she saw me on the street. I remembered the Facebook posts about finally being happy. I remembered Rick's smug face the day they packed my stuff in garbage bags. They made their choice. Now I was making mine. I folded the letter carefully and put it in my desk drawer. Some victories you celebrate alone. College was like entering a different world. For the first time in 3 years, I had a real bed in a dorm room. Reliable meals in the cafeteria. A place where I belonged. I threw myself into my studies with an intensity that worried my roommate. "Luna, you know you can relax sometimes, right? You're already here. You made it." But I couldn't relax. I had something to prove, not just to Mom and Rick, but to myself. I was going to be so successful that no one would ever be able to discard me again. I double majored in computer science and business, maintained a perfect GPA, and started building apps in my spare time. My professors noticed my drive and started connecting me with internship opportunities. By junior year, I had 3 tech companies fighting over me for summer internships. I chose the one that offered the most challenging projects and the best learning opportunities. "You remind me of myself at your age," my mentor, Dr. Sarah Easley, told me one day. "Hungry, brilliant, and carrying some kind of fire that pushes you harder than everyone else. Is that a good thing?" I asked. She smiled. "Can be. Just make sure you're running towards something, not just away from something." Her words stuck with me. Was I building my future, or was I just trying to prove a point to people who'd already forgotten I existed? Maybe it was both. And maybe that was okay. By the time I was 25, I had started my own tech company. It began as a simple app to help students find affordable housing, inspired by my own experience couch surfing through high school. The app took off beyond my wildest dreams. Within 2 years, we expanded to job placement, budgeting tools, and financial literacy resources for young people aging out of foster care or dealing with unstable housing situations. My company, Phoenix Rising Solutions, became the go-to platform for helping disadvantaged youth build stable lives. Investors were throwing money at us, and I was being featured in tech magazines as a young entrepreneur to watch. But the real validation came from the users. I got emails every day from kids who'd found safe housing through our app, who'd gotten their first job through our platform, who'd learned to budget and save money using our tools. "You saved my life," one 17-year-old wrote. "I was about to age out of foster care with nowhere to go, and your app helped me find a family who lets me rent their guest room cheap while I finish high school." Those emails meant more to me than any investor meeting or magazine feature. I was turning my pain into purpose, my struggle into solutions for others facing the same battles. When I sold the company for $50 million at 28, the first thing I did was create a scholarship fund for homeless youth. The second thing I did was buy a house with enough bedrooms to take in kids who needed a safe place to stay. I was living the life I'd dreamed of during those hungry nights, eating ramen and sleeping on couches. 13 years. 13 years of silence. Not a birthday card, not a Christmas text, not even a congratulations when my company IPO made national news. So when my assistant told me that Patricia Smith and Rick Henderson were in the lobby demanding to see me, I almost didn't believe her. "Are you sure those are their names?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady despite my heart racing. "Yes, ma'am. They say they're your mother and stepfather, and they need to discuss important family business." Stepfather. Rick was calling himself my stepfather now. I looked out my office window at the city skyline, the same city where I'd once walked miles to work at McDonald's because I couldn't afford bus fare. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Send them up," I said. I had exactly 5 minutes to prepare myself for seeing the woman who gave birth to me and the man who convinced her I was disposable. 5 minutes to decide how to handle the people who threw me away like garbage when I needed them most. They walked into my office looking older but not humbled. Mom's hair was grayer, Rick had gained weight, but they carried themselves with an entitlement that made my jaw clench. "Luna, baby girl." Mom rushed forward like she was going to hug me. I stepped back, keeping my desk between us. "Patricia." "Rick." I deliberately used their names instead of any family titles. The hurt that flashed across Mom's face almost made me feel guilty. "Almost. It's so good to see you, sweetheart. You look wonderful. So successful." Her voice was bright, fake, like we were old friends catching up. Rick nodded approvingly. "Look at this office. Corner suite, city view. I always knew you had potential." "Let me guess," I said, my voice calm and professional. "You saw the news about my company selling for $50 million, and suddenly remembered you had a daughter." Mom's fake smile faltered. "That's not fair, Luna. We've always been proud of you. Proud enough to not contact me for 13 years? Rick stepped forward, his old arrogance returning. "Now listen here, young lady. We gave you space to grow and become independent. Clearly it worked out well for you." I almost laughed at the audacity. "You gave me space. Is that what we're calling it?" "We always believed in you," Mom said quickly. "Even when things got difficult between us, we knew you'd make something of yourself." "When things got difficult?" I repeated slowly. "Is that how you remember it? Things getting difficult?" The silence stretched between us as they realized I wasn't going to pretend this was a happy reunion. Rick cleared his throat. "Look, Luna, we're not here to rehash the past. We're here because family takes care of family, and now that you've made it big, it's time to share the wealth." There was the real reason for their visit. "Share the wealth," I repeated. Interesting phrase. Mom jumped in. "We've been struggling financially, baby. Rick's been out of work and we thought maybe you could help us out. We raced you after all." "You raced me." My composure finally cracked. "You packed my clothes in garbage bags and threw them on the porch when I was 15 years old. We were teaching you independence." Rick said defensively. "Look how well it worked out. I stared at this man who had destroyed my family and was now trying to take credit for my success. You want to know what you taught me? You taught me that people will abandon you when it's convenient. You taught me that I couldn't depend on anyone but myself. You taught me that some people will choose their own comfort over their child's safety. Mom was crying now. Luna, please. We made mistakes, but we're still family. Family. I walked around my desk to face them directly. When I was sleeping on different couches every few months, were we family then? When I was working 30 hours a week just to afford ramen noodles, were we family then? When I graduated as valedictorian and you couldn't even be bothered to show up, were we family then? We didn't know, Mom started. You didn't know because you didn't care to know. You were too busy posting happy pictures on Facebook with the man who made you choose between your boyfriend and your daughter. Rick's face was red now. We deserve something for motivating you to succeed. I smiled then, the same smile I'd perfected in boardrooms full of men who underestimated me. You're absolutely right. You both deserve exactly what you gave me. I walked to my desk and pulled out 2 black garbage bags from the supply closet. Here, I said, handing them each a bag. This is exactly what you gave me when I was 15 and had nowhere else to go. The look of shock on their faces was worth every sleepless night, every hungry dinner, every moment I'd felt abandoned and unloved. Security will escort you to the street, I said, pressing the button on my desk. Where you belong. As security led them out, Rick was shouting about lawyers and rights, but Mom just looked broken. For a split second I felt sorry for her. Then I remembered that 15-year-old girl sitting on the porch with garbage bags, watching her mother choose a man over her own child. Some wounds never heal, but some victories make them worth carrying. I went back to work, finally free. Final verdict time. Hero or villain? Did Luna do what we all wish we could do, or did they go nuclear when they should have tried diplomacy? I need to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if stories about people finally putting themselves first give you life, subscribe and ring that notification bell, because this is just the beginning.